Hello and welcome inside episode 1 of the Scully Scoop podcast. I'm your host, Adam Scully. Really appreciate all the response I got from the pilot episode and glad to bring you episode 1 of the Scully Scoop podcast. As I mentioned in the pilot, we're going to talk sports, some reality TV, life, fitness, the works. I'm excited about our first guest of the Scully Scoop podcast. That's going to be Mike the Hound Dog Harrison, the stats guy for the Jay and Dan show from TSN and one of my good friends. We're going to be joined with Hound Dog very shortly. But first, some news did break earlier today, Thursday, where I'm taping this show today on Thursday. PGA Tour, more of a concrete schedule has been released. Starting June 8th to 14th, the Charles Schwab Championship at Colonial. That's going to be what they think is going to be the first event of the PGA Tour restart. Let's hope that actually happens. Let's hope COVID-19 can continue to calm down. Next will be the RBC Heritage and the Travelers Championship. That wraps up June. Now, of course, the RBC Canadian Open would have been in one of those slots. It unfortunately has been canceled due to COVID-19 international travel restrictions. Unfortunately, they had to cancel the RBC Canadian Open. Would have been a great event at St. George's in the GTA area. Of course, the concert series, which was such a great success last year at Hamilton Golf and Country Club. Rory McIlroy would have been defending his title after shooting 61 in the final round of last year's tournament. Unfortunately, had to cancel it. Having said that, next year very likely will be held at St. George's, just waiting on a members vote. However, that's going to be a mere formality. As for the majors this year, the PGA Tour, nothing changes here. August 3rd to 9th, PGA Championship, U.S. Open, September 14th to 20th. And how about this back-to-back weeks, the Ryder Cup, the very next week. Let's hope this all can happen. This would be amazing. And then, of course, the Masters in November. How unbelievable would that be? The weather would be a huge factor. It would be something special. If it happens, fingers crossed, it would be a sprint to the finish from June through to the end of the year for the golf season. Hopefully all the other sports leagues can resume as well. Well, that's all the major news going on, especially in the golf world today. But I think it's time to go to our first guest. And now welcoming in our first ever guest to the Scully Scoop podcast, my good friend, Mike the Hound Dog Harrison. You might know him, the stats guy from Jay and Dan, freelance writer for sportsbettingdime.com, and of course, the host of the H-Dog pod, Hound Dog. Thank you for joining us today.
Wow, what an intro. I have to say, this is such crazy pressure for the very first episode of your podcast to be good enough that people will be entertained and want to keep going with their podcast. This is like more pressure than Mike Weir faced in the Masters, that 8-footer on 18 to make a playoff, or Tiger make the putt in 2008 at the U.S. Open to the playoff with Rocco Mediate. This legitimately is maybe the most pressure I've ever felt in my entire life.
So just how nervous are you right now?
Well, you know, I can't even speak properly. I'm so nervous. But I will say, though, I'm surprised you want me on your podcast, given the fact that you blocked me on Instagram a couple days ago.
Yeah, that was fascinating. For those of you watching, this is available on YouTube as well. I actually cut my own hair this week, yeah. And so I was telling Hound Dog, I said, check out my Instagram. And he said, I can't see you on Instagram. I said, that's very strange. So I somehow blocked Hound Dog on Instagram. I think my account was hacked. I don't know.
That's the classic excuse everyone uses. Oh, my account was hacked. Yeah. Okay. So I don't know. Like I said, I'm surprised you want me on this podcast. I thought we weren't friends anymore.
Well, we're definitely friends. We're almost too good of friends. That's some could say. Some could take that the wrong way. But anyway, Hound Dog, I got to ask. We've been in contact a lot during this COVID-19 halt in sports, as both of our worlds revolve around sports. What have you been up to?
I actually made it accomplished, not even joking, my greatest life achievement of all time. I've cleared off my PVR completely, which there was probably before this pandemic happened, maybe like 148 recordings or something like that were on there, and there must have been like 60 Coronation Street episodes and like 30 David Faraday episodes. I was like, I'm never getting caught up because whenever I would get closer to being caught up, of course, there's another new show that's hot on Netflix everyone has to watch. So I was like, oh, I gotta delve into that. So I'm amazed that because of this, I've actually been able to catch up on my PVR and just trying to better myself a little bit in terms of hopefully this is the only time in our lifetimes this is going to happen, like this horrible pandemic, and everyone has to stay home for all this time. So I'm just trying to take the opportunity to work out a little bit more and actually better myself. Sometimes it's a bit of a struggle. You can get a little lazy, but yeah, that's what I've been doing. Actually, I binged the first season of Ozark the other day in like
Oh.
days. Tremendous show. So I have to watch more of that. What have you been doing?
Well, I've been doing a lot of talking to you. I've been doing some podcasting. I've been doing a lot of home workouts. I've been walking our puppy around a lot.
What are home workouts?
Home workouts.
Home workouts. I thought it was like some special like. I know
No.
you're a Greek god in the gym, so I thought maybe it was some crazy new workout program.
Wow, no, not quite yet. I've been following some people on Instagram who or show out or play out, I should say, that's English. Some good videos on Instagram, some good workout stuff. So following that. But you mentioned your PVR. What was the oldest thing you deleted today?
Well, I mean, I guess it was done. I got it cleared off a couple days ago, but
Oh, right.
yeah, it probably was. Actually, it wasn't even that old. I went sort of in sequential order. It was like I said, like 50, 60 Coronation Street episodes. Then it was like 25 Faradies. I just tried to keep shanking those off the PBR. I was so thankful. The last
Nice.
thing being Better Call Saul. I don't know if you ever watched Breaking Bad or that show.
No, I didn't. I've wanted to get into Breaking Bad or like Game of Thrones or The
Oh,
Wire, but I haven't quite.
I've never watched Thrones. Don't watch Thrones. Those episodes are like 17 hours long, which is terrible. Plus, everyone says the last two seasons were bad as it was. It just seems like everyone's like, oh, there's so many characters in the show. It just seems like too much work.
Yeah, I'm with you there for sure. Not getting into that. We're gonna talk about TV a little later. What we've been binging on Netflix and the latest season of Curb Your Enthusiasm. But first, I mentioned off the top, you're the stats guy on the Jay and Dan show. People see you almost every morning on the morning loop. You're doing some sort of bit. You're pouring maple syrup down your chest, missing your mouth. You're rolling. You're spinning the wheel and almost getting headlocked. You're getting slapped by Dan O'Toole as well. What would you say has been your favorite bit on the Jay and Dan show?
First of all, I'm just glad that they put me on the show. It's really cool. Like it's just pretty neat. Whenever the comedy guy Brendo, he's like, hey, Harrison, you want to do something? I'm like, yep, I'm in. Like there's literally been nothing I've said no to. That's a tough one though. Probably maybe I'm a sadistic person or something, but probably when Dan O'Toole smacked me so hard in the face, and like it was legitimately real. And he said, I think it was a bit about because there was coyotes in the parking lot or something like that. So he was like joking, like, find those coyotes, and he slapped me, but he actually hammered me in the face so hard, and I fell over. Of course, the part that I acted was the blood curdling scream. I went crazy, but it actually did hurt. Of course, some people were like, you fell the wrong way. He hit you this way. You should have fallen the other way. If I fell the way that they wanted me to, I would have fallen right into the set. So not only would my face have been crushed by his hand, I could have potentially lost some teeth if I went the wrong way into the set. So
No, that would have been good TV.
So that was probably that one, or my great friend Cameron Glenn. What an absolute beauty! A couple years ago, he threw acid in my face, pretending like I didn't get a lunch order right or something like that. And again, I had this crazy scream, like I was so rattled. My parents hated that one though, because they were like, "But what if like someone said it actually was, or someone actually didn't like you, and it actually was real acid?" Just I don't know. I'm like, I hope no one doesn't. I hope no one hates me that much. But if they did, I would get a huge settlement lawsuit from Bell. So I'm pretty sure it was just water, Mom. It's okay.
Oh, well, there's so much fun to watch every morning. Whenever you're on and either my parents are home, I pause the TV or I send them the Instagram clips. they're both big fans of you. They both want to have dinner with you. I mean, I don't blame them. I mean, look at you. And speaking of looking at you, I think I buried the lead off the top. Let's talk about this facial hair that you've grown on. If you're watching us on YouTube right now, this beard started as a baby and now it's luscious. Walk our listeners and viewers on YouTube through why you started growing it, why you haven't shaved it, and how good do you think you look right now?
Well, normally I would say I'm probably about a 3 out of 10. So I will admit this has probably elevated me slightly. But yeah, you know what? Last couple of years, I actually said, you know what? I'm going to give a beard a try. I never really have in my lifetime. You and my buddy Two Mom and D-Rock and a bunch of people have said I should try one. But I tried for the Maple Leaf playoff run the last 3 years. Okay, like if they go far in the playoffs, I won't shave. Good to go. Unfortunately, of course, they've lost in the first round to Washington and Boston twice in a row the last 3 years. So every time it was like a week and a half in, 2 weeks, gone. So I said, you know what? This is kind of a ridiculous time where I was going to get my hair cut like 2 days before the pandemic really took flight. And I said, you know what? Let's just go full on caveman with it. Grow the beard. Grow the hair is just a
luscious
dumpster fire of a disaster. But I'm kind of embracing it. I think it's kind of funny.
I think it's great personally. I think it's a great look.
To answer your question, I think I bumped up to like a 4.5 out of 10.
I think we'll let our listeners chime in on Instagram and Twitter once we get those accounts going here. Once Team Scully Scoop gets it going here, our social media team. Okay, so I mentioned off the top as well. Sorry, you were to say something.
I was just going to say, nice haircut that you did, by the way, yourself. I saw, as we were talking about earlier. Not bad.
Thank you. You know, 90 minutes, a lot of mirrors. Did a fade as well. So I think I found a second calling. Nice. If I want to become a part-time hairstylist, maybe.
I apologize for interrupting you there. What were you saying?
It's okay. I mentioned off the start of the interview, golf is one of your big passions. Some big golf news released earlier today. We're taping it Thursday, April 16th. PGA Tour schedule. Something more concrete has now been released. The majors were released last week at some point, but a big thing that's very likely going to happen, at least for the start, at least the first four tournaments, is no fans, likely the whole summer, you would think. How weird do you think it would be to see a PGA Tour event on TV without no fans?
Well, first of all, before I even answer that question, I'm glad you said the PGA Tour, because I keep seeing all over, everywhere, on it's Twitter and everything, people keep saying the PGA is returning. Of course, it is the PGA, but it's not really technically the PGA. You know, I was trying to explain this to someone. I'm like, it's not the PGA, it's the PGA Tour. The best way I could describe that was in the National Hockey League, there are 31 organizations, obviously Leafs, Sabres, Canadians, whatever. And in golf, there's the Professional Golfers of America, there's the United States Golf Association, there's Royal and Ancient. So they're the different organizations that the PGA Tour hosts tour events. So I don't know why. I'm always a stickler for little things. But PGA and PGA Tour absolutely are different things. They're different organizations. So it always drives me crazy when I see PGA instead of PGA Tour. In terms of no fans, I actually think the players are going to love it. I'm sure that most players are just annoyed with fans. Like most of them are fine, but there's definitely some that'll take a photo when they shouldn't or whatever, or just yell like "Baba Booey" or get in the whole stupid crap before they hit. I kind of think it'd be very unique, obviously, to see no fans. I kind of think they're going to dig it.
What I'm curious about is we see so much on PGA Tour broadcasts how if a player hits it, 20, 30 yards offline, instead of bouncing into a penalty area, it hits a fan or bounces off a fan and stays back in play. So maybe we could see some higher scores now.
That's a good point. And the one that I most remember in terms of that is the 2000 PGA was in the 18th hole, the 72nd hole, last hole of the in regulation of the tournament, where he hits his tee shot way left, and he looks like he knows he's in pain, like he knows he's screwed. And the ball, you can't see it; it's blocked from the viewer's eye. The ball goes way left underneath something, and there's like 2-3 seconds of you don't see anything. Out of nowhere, the ball goes back the other way from where it came from, toward the tee through the cart path. I swear someone threw that ball, because then there was a guy who ran right after it. It must have been him, into a decent enough lie for Tiger Woods to eventually tie and win in the playoff. That, to me, that drive is insane. That drive was toast. Guaranteed someone threw that ball. Had to have been.
I'm dating myself here a little bit, but that 2000 PGA is my first golf memory watching on TV. Does that make you feel old?
No, well, my first, I got into golf like late '97. None of my
Hmm.
family members really cared about golf, but I think we play. I always loved mini golf, and then we played. I was in Manitoba to visit my brother, and I want to say '96 or something. My dad and my brother, and they all couldn't hit it very well. I picked up a pitching wedge, and I kept hitting it high in the air. It was so cool. It didn't go very far, of course, but I'm like, this is pretty neat. So I immediately got in the game and started playing snow golf my first year because I needed to play. I remember my first ever round. I was so excited to tell my brother I eight putted one of the greens. I was excited to say that. If I eight putted now, oh man, there'd probably be like 14 broken clubs immediately afterwards. But immediately, yeah, I just loved the game right away and just took off. And so my first golf memory, late '97, I remember a little bit, but '98 Masters was my first one where Marco O'Mara won. So it's only 2 years away from me from my first golf memory. So not too bad.
Okay. I was gonna say if I saw you eight putt a green, it'd be a flashback to the Happy Gilmore scene where Vern Lundquist goes, "There's Gilmore with the putter throw. Oh wait, a more restrained Happy Gilmore," and he stops himself.
Yeah, that movie. I don't know. I don't really watch many movies. That movie I quote almost every single day of my life. Like there are
Mm.
so many great quotes and so many amazing characters in that movie. Everyone was in just a perfect amount of time, and I'm glad they never made that a sequel because it was so great as a standalone.
We're in conversation here with Hound Dog Harrison on the Scully Scoop podcast. We're talking about golf now, and last week would have been Masters Week. It's one of the great traditions in
Unlike
life, in golf, unlike no other, the Masters.
anyway, yeah.
Now, at TSN, we did a Masters Rewind where we replayed many of the great final rounds throughout the years, all of last week. So, from the ones that you saw, minus 2019, you can't include 2019 because that was just simply epic. What was your favorite one to go back and watch?
I haven't seen all of them, but I think I probably watched 3 or 4 of them. To me, probably was the 1986 Masters that Jack Nicklaus won for his final major, 46 years old. At that point, he was called the Olden Bear because instead of the Golden Bear, because they thought he had no chance of winning. The start of that broadcast, I must say, it was really good, the broadcast back then. And Jim Nance had just started. I think that might have been his first Masters, if I'm not mistaken. And Nance was just as good as he is now. And it was just kind of neat. But they didn't even show Nicklaus the first half hour of that broadcast. I think he was like 6 or 7 back or something along those lines. So I guess to them it was like, okay, we'll show him a few times. But yeah, then he birdies 9, 10, like he started 11, and he bogeys 12, and it's okay, he's probably out of it. So it was just kind of cool. I knew obviously he'd won that Masters, and it was an epic moment. Pretty much, probably, arguably the best Masters until Tiger last year. But it was just kind of neat to see. Nicholas was unbelievable on the second 9. Sorry, not the back 9.
Thank you. Yes.
But Seve Ballesteros should have won that Masters, and he put the ball. It wasn't even remotely close into the water on 15. Made a mess of it. Greg Norman could have won. Tom Kite missed like a 10-footer on 18 to tie Jack. So it's kind of cool. Obviously, I had known that Jack won, but it was neat to see all the other machinations. Sort of like, not unlike with Tiger Woods. Like Tiger did very well in 2019 to win, but a lot of other guys, Frankie Molinari, Koepka, DJ even, these other guys could have won, but it was Tiger doing well, and other guys sort of screwing it up a little bit. Sort of like with what happened with Jack Nicklaus.
Yeah, I was going to mention last year in in the 2019 Masters, 4 guys hit it in the water on 12. For Tiger, he takes over the lead with a tap-in birdie on the 15th hole. I guess the defining shot of the 2019 Masters was a shot into 16.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe, perhaps, it was a great shot. But as you've said many times as well on your H-Dog pod, many people don't remember in 2005 when Tiger hit that famous chip. He went on to bogey the next 2 holes. This time around in 2019, last year, he pipes a driver down the middle, makes par, and then he can had a mud ball on 18, made a bogey that way. But it was an unbelievable story. And I don't know how much of it you got to see, the Jim Nance, Tiger Woods interview part of it. What did you see of it, and what did you think of it?
I saw a 5-minute clip that you sent me on, I think it was from No Laying Up podcast, and it was just it's cool to see, to borrow a word from one of our favorite shows, The Bachelor. It's cool to see Tiger
Yes.
vulnerable, and he actually.
Hold on. You just used the term vulnerable. I didn't think that was you could use that in regular speech.
But
Wow.
he seems a lot more the last few years like a normal human being,
Yeah.
which I kind of understand why he wasn't before. Because obviously, the biggest superstar athlete, you're winning a bunch of tournaments, everyone wants a piece of your time. I can understand why before he would have frozen people out a little bit. But it's cool to see Tiger have this human element to him. Now he's getting a little
Mhm.
bit older, getting close to mid 40s. So yeah, it was just cool to see. I mean, I'm sure he maybe would have said if he had kids 10, 15 years ago, like, I don't have kids, but
Really?
obviously changes your life to have them. I don't think I do anyway. Changes your life to have them, but I don't think he would have been, like I said, as vulnerable, and he broke down for a little bit, a few seconds talking to Jim Nance there. So it's cool to see Tiger be more of a quote unquote normal person.
100% agree. It was fun to watch, fun to look back. And one thing that we both agreed on watching the 2005 Masters, one of the Masters shown on the Rewind, Tiger's pace of play. That was abysmal. That was the slowest I have ever seen anyone play golf.
Yeah, I've just been watching that slowly but surely. I think I'm on the 13th hole. They're
Mhm.
going to 13. Tiger, of course, had that 4-shot lead, and of course, you would have thought easily he was going to win. But yeah, I saw this massive birdie by DeMarco on 11. Bobby Clamp had called
Yep.
it beforehand. It was like a 50-footer, and he's like, "This is makeable," and you're thinking, "Really? That's your call?" And he actually made it, so that was kind of cool. But yeah, oh my goodness, it's crazy how slow Tiger was. And then of course, fast forward to 16, where I'm not at. Obviously, I watched it 15 years ago, but yes, Tiger made the chip, which was electric. Of course, he had the bad shot to get in position to have that chip. It wasn't a good tee shot in 16, as you said. He bogeyed 17 and 18. It's amazing. Tiger was almost kicked away that golf tournament. But at least in that front nine, anyway, I noticed he was a little bit quicker in the back nine. The
Mhm.
first few holes that I've seen, holy crap, Tiger took forever. And guys like nowadays, Spieth and Jason Day, those guys take a long time too. But yeah, of course, no one would call it Tiger for that, considering it's Tiger Woods. But oh,
Mhm.
come on, man, pick it up.
Yeah, and Tiger's former coach Hank Haney wrote a book and said Tiger isn't a slow player, but he's a patient player. I don't know, but when you go back and watch the 2005 Masters, there is a great moment that was very quick. It was on the 18th hole after Chris DeMarco hit the pin
Mm-hmm.
with his chip. Tiger hit a bunker shot towards the same or in the same line, but a little farther away. DeMarco had to move his ball marker, so he put his putter down and moved the marker. Tiger misses the putt, and as he misses the putt, he's walking by the hole. You can see DeMarco walking in the frame, and Tiger says to him, you can read his lips, put your mark back.
Oh,
So DeMarco could have easily forgotten about that. We saw this a couple of years ago, Jason Duffner and Zach Johnson. A similar thing happened on the PGA Tour. So you mentioned Tiger's vulnerability. He had it back then, too.
yeah, I do believe it. I think back then, especially his guys for sure were his guys, and he's cool with them. But that it was such a select, small group. And now it does seem like now that he is older, a lot of those people who Justin Thomas or Spieth or Rory, the guys who grew up idolizing him, it seemed like because he basically didn't play for 3 or 4 years, Tiger has sort of taken them under his wings. And I always said about Tiger, if he, and it was a massive if he can ever get healthy, in no way did I ever give up on him being able to win a golf tournament or a major because he's the greatest player of all time. I guess you could say Jack Nicklaus perhaps because he has more majors than Tiger. I still think it's Tiger. Probably a little bit of a recency bias because I grew up watching Tiger. But I always maintained, and so many people counted him out. And I think people view golf in the lens of other sports where it's like, oh, if you're late 30s, you're done. No, golf, you could play till you're 91 years old. Gary Player played, what did he play, like 55 Masters or 50
Something
Masters?
crazy, yeah.
Like that. Obviously, he wasn't super competitive toward the end of that, duh. But like, golf's a game. If he can get healthy, which he did, Tiger Woods, does not surprise me that he can get back to that level because he's so damn good, so far better than everyone else. Will he consistently do it and win all these tournaments like he did before? No, I don't think so. I don't think that's possible.
Mhm.
But for at least this major, the Masters last year, maybe other ones, I still think Tiger. Okay, that's at different times when golf tournaments.
Well, a player who wasn't playing in the Masters last year and hasn't in a number of years now is your boy John Daly. Now you have quite you're a huge fan of John Daly, possibly the biggest fan of John Daly. First of all, how did this start? And are you wearing loudmouth pants right now?
I should have worn my John Daly hat right now. That's a mistake.
Mm,
Or the pants.
product
Yeah.
placement, yeah.
I'm actually wearing a Mr. Bean shirt, as you can see here.
Ah,
And, let me see if I can do a little. Oh, this is too hot for TV, probably on YouTube. Some Ninja Turtles pajamas, actually, that I'm wearing. So comfortable. The Ninja Turtles are the greatest thing of all time. What was your question? How great John Daly is? Yeah.
so how did you start? How did you become a John Daly fan?
Like I said, I got into golf sort of the late '90s. And my first memory of Daly was at, I think it was a 1998 Greater Vancouver Open, and it was boiling hot in the summer, and he had the shakes because I guess he was going through alcohol
Oh,
withdrawal.
right.
And I just felt really bad for the guy. I didn't know him, obviously, at that point. And I think I was just like, obviously, that's horrible. I just felt bad for the situation. I obviously researched a bit more about him. And I don't really know the exact obvious pinpoint moment where I was like, that's my favorite. But for some reason, I just got into him. I remember when he did for his first time in 9 years at the 2004 Buick Invitational. I was in college at Niagara College. And this is before, of course, you could have your smartphone. You could see all the scores on your phone. This was like you had to be home. This is before they showed the first 6 holes on TV. On CBS, you started on like the 7th hole. And I remember people at college, I was like, guys, I got to go. Like, I can't be doing this assignment with you guys on the Sunday. I got to go to watch Daly. And everyone was like, we understand. We know you love him. Go home. It was just funny how like 16 years ago, and even before that, they knew that I just loved him. And I don't know, it just grew. And we've communicated about 6 or 7 times. We've direct messaged
Not a big deal.
on Twitter. No big deal. Brag. Um, I remember the first time he ever responded to me. I wasn't even trying to get him to respond to me. I just said something like years ago on Twitter. I wrote like, "Does anyone miss more cuts in the PGA Tour than John Daly by one shot? Like it's got to be so frustrating to miss by one all the time." And he said something like, "Oh, I know, brother. Like I agree. I totally agree. I've been saying the same thing." And I was like, "Holy!" And then I got to meet him actually. I won a draw because for a charity event, I can't remember how much it was. I put up way too much money to be able to meet John Daly to his golf course at Thundering Waters, and I got to watch him play 4 holes with Phil Kessel. I met him too, and Dan Girardi, and it was pretty funny. I went to go to the washroom, and I'm just like, all right, whatever. And, they finished their round. Their 4 holes. And I went to the washroom, and all of a sudden, I looked to the left of me, and there's John Daly. I'm like, holy crap, that's my boy. This is incredible. And this is when he wasn't drinking for a while. He got off the sauce for a bit. And so on those 4 holes, I'm not kidding, he probably had about 10 Diet Cokes. Like he was just hammering them back, which was crazy. And I don't know if I should even say this, but I still will. So I was going to the washroom, and then Daly did whatever he had to do. And he goes, oh. Almost burst out laughing right there. I was like, that's the funniest thing. That's Daly right there. And he was just the nicest, generous guy and super cool. Very, very low key. And but I approached it like I talked to him about football because I know he's a big football guy. I thought, I'm sure so many fans are like, oh, we love you. You're such a great golfer, blah, blah, blah. I thought, let's actually talk to him about football and life and different things. So I only had about 2 minutes to talk to him. But I'm pretty sure we're besties is the point I'm making.
I mean, he called you brother on Twitter, so right then and there, like you guys are brothers.
100%. Love him.
I remember there was a good story in James Duthie's book. He was talking about being in a washroom at Augusta, and Tiger Woods walked in beside him, and Duthie had no idea what to say. So he said, "Hey, Tiger, good luck." And Tiger said, "Thanks. I do this a number of times a day." Oh man. Well, one of the other things that you are brilliant at, to put it bluntly, maybe not brilliant, but you have some bold fascinations about this, and you've done quite well at times, especially with John Daly, is betting and golf betting. If you have any advice for those out there who are considering getting into the betting game, what would it be?
It is incredibly hard to pick a winner before a golf tournament. I did for I think that my first ever golf bet, I opened a Bet365 account thinking that one of two golfers were going to win the Masters. This is 2012, I think, or 2011, I think it was. Bubba Watson or Alvaro Quiros. And I told everyone to bet on those two guys. Alvaro Quiros led after the first day. So everyone was like, holy crap, you're a genius. Oh, incredible. He ended up falling off, had no chance of winning. Bubba Watson didn't win. Of course, Bubba wins the next year. Ugh. So the point is, it's so damn hard to pick a winner before a tournament. I might have done it, I don't know, 3-4 times over like 7-8 years before the event. Like, it's just, of course, you're trying to bet on value because the bigger favorites are going to be harder. You're not going to get as much money if you bet on them because they're the favorites to win.
Mm-hmm.
But my advice would be wait for a round or two. Maybe bet on a guy who's a little bit behind. I remember doing that last year at the Valero Texas Open with Corey Connors, Canadian.
There you go.
It was like, I think he was maybe 2 or 3 back going into that weekend, and he was still like 80-1 to win the tournament. And it's like a guy who's only 2-3 back, 80-1 is great value to bet on. He ended up winning, thankfully. Because way too many times I bet on a guy before a tournament, hasn't panned out. And the other thing I've actually recently was doing before this sport was stopped during this pandemic was each way betting. And I don't 100% even fully understand it, but essentially, if you bet on a guy and it'll tell you what the positions, usually it's 1 through 5, and if you can bet on him, and if he does not win, like Mackenzie Hughes didn't win Honda this past couple weeks or a couple months ago. He finished second, but I won a fraction of the amount of money on him because I each way bet him. And so I didn't win as much as if he had won, but I was able to win a little bit of the money back, so I recouped it. But my favorite all-time story, which of course you obviously know about, I won on Daly one time when he won on the Champions Tour, but it was $5 to win $1,000, which was amazing.
But love to see that.
Shubhankar Sharma. I'd never heard of this guy. Literally the first time in my lifetime I decided to do this was I'm going to pick a number between whoever's playing in the tournament. It was the most players ever in a tournament. I think it was like 240 players or something. I basically had never heard of anybody. It was on the European Tour. And I said, I'm going to pick a number between 1 and 240. I picked 13. And the 13th guy on the tee sheet was Sharma. Never heard of the guy in my life. I thought maybe he was like some struggling tour player. He was 110-1 to win. I said, all right, I'm going to go with it. I don't know who he is. So I threw $5 on him. He ends up winning the golf tournament. The first time I've ever tried that. I could do that 1,000 more times and probably never win on that. And he wins the tournament, so I love him. I've been on him a few months later. He won again because obviously at this point he's my boy. So that was an amazing golf story. But more often than not, especially golf, it's really hard to win. And more often you're going to lose. So just avoid betting. It's so tempting pre-tournament because the odds are amazing. Wait for a couple of rounds, then get your bets in. That's the best way to win.
Some brilliant advice there from Hound Dog Harrison. Of course, he is stats guy for Jan Dan, freelance writer for sportsbettingdime.com. You can follow his stuff there, as well as the host of the H-Dog pod. Now, Hound Dog, we've talked about sports. We've talked about your hair, your beard. But there's been a lot of TV to watch during this COVID-19 pandemic. And one series that wrapped up just before the pandemic or maybe during the finale or last 2 episodes, Curb Your Enthusiasm. Mm-hmm. I've said this has probably been one of my top 3 seasons so far, season 10 of Curb. What did you think of this season?
I would not rank it in my top 3 myself. I haven't thought about where I would rank it. Certainly it was very good. I can't say it was bad. That's not true at all. But as I've said before to some people, the episodes used to be 30 minutes, and now they're like 36 to 38 minutes approximately. And I sometimes feel like I would just wish it was just a little bit tighter, and I think it'd be a little bit sharper. Again, it's not like, oh my God, this is really bad TV. But I think he also is probably hamstrung Larry David because he went so long between seasons 8 and 9.
Right.
A lot of the actors, Cheryl Hines, Ted Danson, obviously, Jeff, Susie, all these people, all these characters and actors, they're doing different shows, Leon. So I feel like he's hamstrung a little bit with their time constraints with being able to film stuff. So I think that's part of why, because I feel oftentimes there's some people that'll come in for a little bit of the episode and then they're gone. It almost feels like a little bit of the hits of them instead of just like them naturally, organically being in the episode almost. It certainly wasn't a bad season by any stretch, but I still think for me, probably the best seasons were 6, 7, 8, where Leon was introduced, and they were just unbelievable, especially season 7 with the Seinfeld storyline arc. So good. But yeah, no, the episodes are great. I still loved it. But it just felt like sometimes the episodes were maybe a little bit too long.
We'll be sure to talk about this more when Larry David joins us. I'm kidding. Hopefully Larry David can at some point join. Maybe a podcast idea for both of us is to rank the Curb seasons and go through it and analyze them and have a panel on. That could be an idea.
I could do that right now, but I think that would probably take too much time, and then you'd be like, "Oh, the listeners would stop listening." So
episode 1 is 67 hours long of us just rambling about Curb. Another show, a number of shows that you love, we both love, The Bachelor. I mean, where to begin? This past season was quite something. We'll get to that shortly. But this new Bachelor series that came out, it released on Monday. Listen to your heart. There's a musical aspect to this. I went into this with very low expectations. I thought it was pretty good.
I said to people, like, they were asking me, "Oh, should we watch?" And I said, I went into the same sort of idea with Bachelor Winter Games a couple years ago, thinking like, I don't know, like what are they doing? They're playing Winter Games and then The Bachelor. It just seems weird. This the Listen to Your Heart thing is legitimately the exact same thing as The Bachelor. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's only 3 or 4 episodes total, like how the Winter Games were. So it's not a huge time commitment. You're not waiting, 2-3 months to go through all this. And yeah, it was totally fine. Like, of course, the people love music, fine, which was kind of cool because some of their music that they played was like the soundtrack for the episode, which was kind of neat to hear them thing. And yeah, it was totally fine. I wrote down some notes because I knew first episode. There was no way I was going to remember people's names. Like,
no chance.
But I do remember Jamie was one of the women that she was young. Yep. I think she was 21. She was a huge hot commodity amongst the guys.
And she was the first one to arrive, I believe. I believe she was. She was for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Good notice on that one. Then there's that Matt guy who somehow stayed. I was surprised because he screwed this Rudy girl over.
Spoiler alert, if you haven't watched yet. Spoiler alert.
Yeah, my bad. Well, yeah, that's a spoiler. I hate spoilers, so that's my bad. But yeah, he screwed over a little bit, and but there's one guy named Michael Todd on the show. If you have 2 names on your show, you're not going far. That just sounds just so dumb. And also, his job, and I think there was one other guy, because they had like their different genres of music that they like to do. His was singer/songwriter. What does that mean? Because they're like, like what music do you do? Singer-songwriter? Aren't they all? What does that mean?
I think so.
Singer-songwriter mean? I couldn't figure that out. So I was like, this guy has to lose for sure. That's what I envisioned right away. But no, it did seem like not a bad show, and whatever. I think it's 4 episodes. I could be mistaken there, but it was pretty good.
I'm guessing they did only 4, or are only doing 4 to fill the void, which would have been the break between The Bachelor and Bachelorette. Obviously, The Bachelorette with Claire is not happening at this point due to COVID, unless they did it all on Zoom, which would be hilarious. Another note that I saw, that I actually wrote down from Listen to Your Heart, was Matt, who didn't know who Chris Harrison was.
Oh, right.
How offended. I mean, Chris Harrison is your uncle.
His name's not Chris.
He's Uncle Harrison. But how offended were you?
I'm glad you mentioned that because I was very, very offended. I was very cheesed off. How could you not know the GOAT of reality show hosts? Is he the GOAT? Maybe Jeff Probst is, but from Survivor.
Yeah.
It's just like, although you do wonder sometimes, do they just say these things so they get more camera and exposure? But yeah, that Matt guy was in the very hot water that first episode, and he was entertaining. But how dare you forget about Chris Harrison? Sorry, Uncle Harrison.
Uncle Harrison. And there was something else. You had a bit of a riff. Was it Chris Harrison who had the expression, or used the expression, making love? Was there something just bothered you with that? Tell us about that.
Well, I mean, of course, they've said that expression on The Bachelor before, and also on Love is Blind, which I watched some of those episodes. I think I watched the first 5 of those. Making love. It just sounds like the dumbest thing of all time. And maybe it's because I don't make love often, but it just sounds ridiculous. It just doesn't just making love. Shut up. You're not making love. It just sounds so gross and it almost more perverse than anything else than actually just saying some other colloquial terms. Good word. Uh, Making love. I loathe that expression so very much. It just sounds so dumb. What are your thoughts?
Well, I've never thought of it that way, but the next time I hear Uncle Harrison say this on The Bachelor, I will think of you and think of something to say.
Making love. Think about that. Just say it. Just say it out loud to yourself. And how do you not go, I sound like an idiot? I can't say that. Honestly. Oh,
Well, and one last note on The Bachelor Listen to Your Heart show. There's the one character, Sheridan, who's got the long flow and the beard. You know, if COVID goes long enough, Hound Dog, you might look like Sheridan.
maybe I should get the sweet hat and grow the beard.
Some tats? Yeah.
Somehow learn guitar and a different musical thing. I'm the least artistic person of all time. I'm so bad at art. I'm so bad at music. But yeah, maybe this is the challenge for me, right? I've said I'm using this time to better myself and do different things. Maybe I should become the world's top musician.
I think that's a great idea. Speaking of or you mentioned Love is Blind, I should say. We're both in the same boat. We're 5 episodes in. I've been told it really starts to heat up after this. Spoiler, but not really. What have been your thoughts on the show thus far?
I went into it like kind of intrigued because I know everyone was talking how great it was, and it was definitely cool. The first, like every reality show, they're way over, with love. Like Love Island, by the way, I love that show. That was tremendous. The narrator in Love Island, amazing.
So good.
And The Bachelor, and of course this one. A lot of people fall head over heels in love way too quickly. Spoiler alert: before the first episode, some people are saying they want to get married, which is crazy.
And they haven't seen the person yet.
Exactly. And the whole point of the show, the whole aspect of the show is it's Love is Blind. You can't actually see them, and you're talking with them, blah, 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 blah. And they race through the first 2 episodes, many days of them getting to know each other. And then, again, I've only watched the first 5 episodes like you. Maybe they go back to the house. But I found a couple of things weird. They leave the house, basically, that they were in for these Love is Blind, because they're talking through a wall. So the aspect of the show is gone. The whole point of the show was talking to people, and you can't see them. After 2 episodes, I think there's 11 or 10 or 11 in there, the episode, there you see them in person. Everyone sees them in person. What? The whole point, I thought anyway, of the show was so you didn't see them for a long time. And I kept thinking that maybe if they were to want to get married, they'd recycle people in and out. But then they went away to some other island, Mexico somewhere. The people who, correct me if I'm wrong, I think there were people who didn't win. I know there was one girl, what was her name, LC or RC or something like that. She liked this Barnett guy. She didn't win.
LC, and yes.
LC. They just leave them. They're gone. So where'd they go? I don't know. Maybe they go back to them again. I literally have no idea what happens with the rest of the show. Who's together? Who's not? I have purposely not seen that because I don't want any spoilers. But it just seems weird. Like they're gone. These people are gone, and the whole aspect of the show, the whole point of the show, is done after 2 episodes. So it just seemed to me. Do things heat up? I have a feeling it's gonna be dragged out like crazy, and it's gonna be like, oh god, this is boring toward the end.
Yeah, I'm curious. I'm intrigued. There's the one guy who's 24. He's with the 34-year-old. I believe his name is Mark. He looks like Mark Sanchez to me. I can't get that out of my head.
Interesting you say that. That's funny.
Yeah.
Because I had a couple of different people, or I had a couple of different thoughts on some different people what they look like from that show. So I thought he looked like a mix between Kevin Pillar, former Blue Jay,
right,
and Francesco Molinari, who had a chance to win that Masters last year.
Wow!
So
I didn't even think. Yeah, that works actually.
The Mark one, the Mark Sanchez, that's actually a good call. I have several others, by the way, that I wrote down because I didn't want to forget them. Because while watching, I always like to think, who would play this person in a movie? Jessica, who was the 34-year-old woman you're talking about, Annalise from The Bachelor in Paradise.
Yes, I said the same thing. Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
and she has a disposition like her as well. Drama seems to follow her, which is kind of crazy. Cameron, who I believe is with Lauren. I'm really bad with names. I'm pretty sure that's her name. Cameron reminded me of Jimmy Walker, PGA Championship winner a few years ago. This one I'm not so sold on, but Barnett, maybe Patrick Marlowe-ish, or no?
Oh, mate. Yeah, maybe a little bit. Barnett, and Barnett was a hot commodity of all the women there.
Yeah, they all loved him. Two other ones, Giannina or Gianna or something.
Giannina, great name.
It looks like a blonde Drew Barrymore, which I think is a great celebrity. I'm really bad with celebrity names. I'm almost certain that's who I'm thinking of. And Carlton, and we're going to talk about him, hopefully, if you'd like to discuss him. Carlton, to me, looks like James Harden of the Houston Rockets. Do you remember Carlton?
Oh, yes. Okay, yeah, I can see that.
He had a massive blowout with Diamond. What are your thoughts on that whole situation that went down there?
That escalated quickly, and it was strange. So for those who haven't seen, spoiler alert, first of all, they get engaged without seeing each other, and then he admits to her after the fact that he was a bisexual or is a bisexual.
He said, I've dated both genders. And
right.
So the response was, so like guys and girls? Yes, that's both genders.
That's both genders.
What are you talking about? Yeah, I thought I could see your point of view to a point. I can. That he wasn't.
Your point of view to a point?
Yeah, exactly. That, like, he wasn't being totally truthful with her, and if you're getting engaged, you might want to say that. But I could see his point of view, which is that's something I didn't feel comfortable enough sharing. I guess in the past, he's had girls burn him when he does open up to tell him that, and then they want to get rid of him, which is exactly what Diamond did. But of course, in this situation, like with all reality shows, everything is truncated. Everything is just like, oh, it has to happen within 3 weeks. So in a normal real life situation, maybe he would date her for 4 or 5 months or something, and then eventually he would tell her that, and probably would be fine. But it's like, oh, we're gonna get engaged, we're gonna get married. He tells her, she goes crazy on him, and I can understand him being hurt and upset. Like, I love that guy. Carlton's a beauty. Like, I'm glad that he was able to say it. It's just it's just disappointing and frustrating the way she reacted to that. Again, I can see her point of view to a point, and I so desperately want to read up on stories about her. I'm sure everyone hates her after this series, but I don't want to look up on that because I don't want to see spoilers. If I type Diamond, Love is Blind, I'm sure I would see so many different things, which I don't want to see. But I'm dying to watch the rest of that series. Not necessarily because I even care anymore. Again, I don't know. Maybe they do go back to the house, but if it's just them living in real world life, well, again, what's the point of the show? Wasn't the point that they couldn't actually see each other? Seems weird to me.
I'm with you. Now, Hound Dog, I know I've taken a lot of your time here. I have one final question here for you. It's something that we've played a couple times during this COVID-19 pandemic, and that's Jackbox TV. With the beauty of Zoom, which we're using to record this podcast both on iTunes and on YouTube. For those who haven't seen Jackbox TV, tell listeners about it. It's kind of like Cards Against Humanity, sort of, kind of.
It's actually called Jack Off Box TV. It's actually unfortunate. I always joke with people about that. And then when sometimes I'll actually accidentally say that, or I'll text it because it's in my autocorrects. And I'll mean to just say Jackbox. That's it, TV. And then I was like, oh no, I didn't mean to say that. Oh crap. Actually,
and then it's out there forever. Yeah.
I love autocorrects. Actually, I was saying about Jessica from Love is Blind. I was texting someone the other day, and I was saying, oh yeah, she's cray cray, and it actually autocorrected to she's crayon. So autocorrects are hilarious. Yeah, Jackbox TV. I have all 6 versions, brag, and they're like usually about $25-$30 at most for each version. There's like 5 or 6 games in all of them. My favorites are like Fibbage, which you're trying to. There's a definition or a word that no one knows, and you're trying to figure out what is the right word. Plus, you're also creating a word or expression that you're trying to fool people into thinking is the real word, and that's how you get points, and that's how you win. There's other ones that are really good, like Quiplash, where you're trying to come up with a funny expression again for a scenario, and they're just really, really fun games. That they're not too expensive. I like probably the third pack because they have a Trivia Murder Party on that as well, which is trivia, and it's really, really crazy toward the end of the game. It's really intense. That one, and maybe pack 2 because you have Quiplash and Fibbage.
Right.
Those are the classics. I find myself playing only a few of the different ones because they're so good, and I kind of ignore some of the other ones. But definitely, if you want to get through this time, Jackbox.tv. You play through with your phone. You just go to that on Google, and if someone has the game, you can just stream it either straight. You can cast it straight to your laptop through Zoom, or like I do, put it on the back of your laptop, and it's really, really fun.
It's a great game. It's been a great way to spend some time with friends, buddies. We've had games of 7 or 8 people, and during COVID-19, social distance, we're doing our best with that. And it's great with technology that we can still connect. Well, Hound Dog, really appreciate your time today. Thank you very much for being guest number 1 on episode number 1 of the Scully Scoop podcast, and we will talk to you very soon.
Thank you. I hope people are going to want to listen after this episode. I hope I wasn't too boring or brutal, and they want to do that. And just one final note: I do feel through this COVID-19 thing, obviously as horrible as it is, I feel it is bringing people closer together. I'm talking to family members I'm checking on family members who I maybe wouldn't have as much, and friends. I'm playing games like Jackbox games with buddies from back home. Most weekends, I'm doing that with different people. And I think it's going to be a thing, hopefully, when this is all over in a few months, that I'll still be like, hey, guys from back home, you want to play on Zoom? You want to play Jackbox games? I feel it's bringing people closer together in a weird way because, of course, we can't or we shouldn't be going out to actually see them in person. But I'm trying to take the positives from this and actually make it a good thing, a plus, to be able to try to better myself and actually, talk to different people and check in on people more, which is very important.
That's one of the great things about you, Hound Dog. You're very optimistic, and you always have the glass half full, both literally and figuratively. Once again, thank you very, very much for joining us.
It's not glass half full, but thank you. Cheers.
Oh, wow! In your life, have you seen anything like that?
Once again, want to thank Hound Dog Harrison for joining the podcast. Of course, the stats guy for the Jay and Dan show on TSN, freelance writer for sportsbettingdime.com, and he's the host of the H Dog pod. He has some exciting things coming out this week. Well, that's been episode 1 of the Scully Scoop podcast. Hope you enjoy. Please subscribe on iTunes. Watch us on YouTube. Search Scully Scoop, and you can see episode 1. See Hound Dog and I actually chatting on video. Riveting stuff. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I can't wait to bring you episode 2 very soon.